Hi Dan, thank you so much for joining me today for this interview. First of all, can you tell me about your role at Danske Bank and what your responsibilities are?
I'm sitting in the office of our COO and I'm a program manager. I'm heading, looking into our contact centers, how to upgrade them to make them first quartile performance. So there's a program with a lot of underlying projects, both in terms of technology, also how we do management practices, and then also looking at the organization.
There's a huge amount of chatter around chatbots and AI in the industry, but in reality, how much are these developments really impacting your strategy today? Are you really using them?
Well, I say that there's a lot of fuss going about chatbots and also AI, and I think it's definitely a space where you need to be. You cannot disregard it. It's also a market that is maturing. It's rapidly maturing also, but it's not mature yet. So definitely you have to be in there, in that space, whether it's being rule-based chatbots, so you're going all the way to AI, you have to be there. And we're also working on this. We have both looking into Center of Excellences. We have a few of these, and we're trying out also both chatbots and also some cognitive computing, also looking into that. But it's done in sort of a proof of concept or doing pilots in that space.
Okay, and what are your plans for 2018 when it comes to that?
We're definitely going to try out some chatbots. As I mentioned, it is still a very maturing market, so there's no really strategic partner in that space. So we'll be doing some pilots and we'll do some also proof of concepts across the organization. Not necessarily the same, but we need to have it as a coordinated effort to do this. But we'll do some pilot. I think we'll do them internally first before sort of putting them to the customer.
Another big change in the industry is the voice of the customer and how you measure it, especially as we enter survey fatigue. How do you measure VOC at Danske Bank?
Well, we measure the voice of our customers in various ways. Of course, we're on the social media, also looking at that. But if you look at the solicited, we use surveys in that space also. And we build our surveys, and that has recently changed. We build the surveys both to get our insights on the specific touch points, but also across the journey. So how was your experience with Danske Bank overall, and then how did you perceive the specific touch point? And the way we sort of take that input and put it into reality is that if you have the questions that are around the entire experience, then that goes to our head office, it goes to the customer journey responsibles, and those specifically for the touch point, they will go for the senior managers at that touch point to sort of learn from that and also revert to the customers, both in negative and also in positive feedback.
And are there any other ways that you measure VOC in addition to surveys that you perhaps combine the insights from?
Well, there's also the industry surveys that we look at, all the classical means of that. But if you look at, there's sort of two layers in this. There's the traditional layer of having surveys, and then there's the more new technology-driven, like measuring customer sentiment, doing voice analysis and so on. We're not in that space yet, but it is something that we will closely monitor.
What has been the biggest customer experience challenge for you in the past year, and what steps did you take to overcome this challenge?
Perhaps more than the last year, but the last couple of years, I think the biggest transformation has actually been from optimizing the specific touch point and optimizing specific products into looking across the customer journey, having identified key customer journeys, do customer journey mapping, understanding where the customer starts and ends up and what after. Prior to that and after that, and then optimizing the customer journey. I think that's perhaps going from vertical to horizontal development. And the steps we've taken there is we have identified, that's a couple of years ago, identified the key customer journeys, done some mapping on them, and now we are sort of on the track where we improve whatever needs to be improved in terms of time, the delivery time, and the experience across the customer journey.
What is your prediction for the biggest new trend, change, or development that will be impacting the industry in 2018? And what are you doing now to prepare for this?
That's a good question, because I think if you look at what's on everybody's tongue in the industry is this omni-channel experience. Providing an omni-channel, we all have multi-channel. We are in different channels. But I think the winners of that game will actually be those who made the customer put the least effort into doing business with them. So that means being in the right channel, the customer's preferred channel at the customer's preferred time, doing it and responding to the customer in the way that the customer wants it. Not just reactive, waiting for the customer, but also have sort of a proactive approach towards that. And in order to do that, you need to have a lot of data. around the customer. You need to have a lot of knowledge. You have to have that knowledge connected, not just transactional, but also behavioral knowledge. To have that connected, to be able to do some predictive analytics around what is the next best offer and all that. So I think really getting this omni-channel experience, really nail it. That's going to be the key topic, I think, of 2018.
Yeah, it's a really important one, and you're absolutely right. You need to connect all those different steps. How are you approaching that currently? Is there a particular tool or a piece of software that's helping you with that?
I think no. What we're looking at is, of course, we're looking at software and tools that can do it all in once. But I think building APIs between your existence. We're an old bank. We do have a lot of legacy systems. Also, we have newer systems on. So we have multiple systems doing that. I think the key is when we look at APIs, integrating those different tools. That's a way for us to go forward. Of course, you're building from the scratch. You can take a suite vendor and sort of incorporate that. But we have some legacy that we need to deal with, and we'll probably build APIs around that.
What do you feel is the most overused buzzword in the industry today, and why?
I think I actually just used it. I think going omnichannel. That's what everybody talks about it, and I think there are a lot of initiatives around it. But I think really doing it, really working it, really have that shift from multi-channel onto omnichannel. What does it actually mean? But I think we're all talking about omnichannel experiences, but really getting it what it actually means, have it defined, and have your brand defining what is the omnichannel experience. I think that's probably the key word, omnichannel experience that everybody talks about.
And what is the most underrated tool, tech, or piece of software that you feel more people should be using because you see a lot of value from it?
Well, I think in order to get it right, to deliver the omnichannel experience, and also be able to deliver the right information to the customer, not just in a reactive way, but also in a proactive. I think what we talk about, we don't really pay that much attention. That's how you manage and exhibit your knowledge. Because especially as a legacy bank that we have a lot of knowledge, and we have it different places. And I think we also heard it in one of the presentations that building that knowledge management, how you manage your knowledge and how you present it across channels with the same consistent information brought to you in that specific format for the specific channel. I think that's underrated right now. I think it's a huge task for all of us in the industry.
And finally, what was your biggest learning in 2017 that you can share with fellow CX leaders so they can take this into 2018?
Well, I think the biggest learning is actually when you look at technology, there's a lot of technology opportunities out there. And there are also chatbots and virtual assistants that you can put right in front of your customer. I think what is most important, and I would tell that to my fellow CX networkers also, to have that discussion internally on how to what extent should you put technology in front of your customer, and what is the human touch? Should you build your strategy around that you have a human facing our customer that's backed up by technology, or should you put the customer right in front of the technology like a virtual customer assistant or whatever? To have that dialogue, I think that it's worthwhile, and I think it's underestimated.
Well, thank you so much, Dan. It was a pleasure talking to you today.